To publish or not to publish? Well, obviously you want to publish, but do you want to self-publish? Those are the questions you need to ask. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, where we explore the realms of fantasy. And this time we're exploring writing fantasy. And this is an imp's journey, if you will. This is my own personal writing experience because I have written a book. It's a fantasy, obviously as you'd expect. It's an illustrated fantasy. The illustration's fantastically done by Rich Nunn. Is this turning into an advert? It sounds like it is. It's called The Legends of Grimace Ironblood, and I just thought, I'd share my experiences because I learned quite a lot along the way. And this is part 5, and this time we're going to be looking at publishing and trying to get an agent, because we've already covered certain other aspects. One of which was, the ideas and the creativity and how to generate ideas and get in the right mood to write. One was where we looked at the kind of elements of world building. So, obviously fantasy you need to create basically from scratch because you're creating a world that doesn't really exist. And we've covered other things like editing and rewriting and proofreading. So now, if you've been following along and kind of keeping up and doing the same stages that these are coming out at, probably not. But anyway, if you're watching this, if you have got your finished manuscript, then what you need to do is, obviously, you're ready to send it out to publishers or to agents. So that's the question you need to ask yourself. Do I go down the traditional publishing route, or do you self-publish? And if you self-publish, do you need an agent? So with the traditional publishing, that kind of means that yes, publisher will take your manuscript on and they will do pretty much everything for you. They will market your book, they will design a cover. If there's illustrations that need doing, they will match an illustrator to it and do the illustrations. And they will obviously take their cut of the sales. Because if you think about it, they're doing quite a lot for you. There's a sales team, there's marketing, and you'll get a percentage. So it might be anywhere of 6% or 8%, depending on what it is. It could be a bit higher, might be a bit lower. And obviously that's where agents come in, because agents know about contracts. Now, with the traditional publishing, if you're to send your work directly to a publisher, you've got to be careful because some of them don't accept unsolicited manuscripts. You may see that. In fact, you probably will see that on websites. And what that means is that, yes, they don't take from authors who are not represented by agents, because they are inundated by manuscripts, and it just, I guess, becomes nigh on impossible to start reading through. So they need a filter. And so they've got an in-house filter because they'll have various readers that will be reading what they call a slush pile, where manuscripts that do come in, and from agents, and then they'll have, and there's like there's X amount of readers before it actually gets to anyone that can make a real decision on whether or not they're going to actually invest money and time and effort into publishing that work. And so an agent kind of bypasses some of that slush pile and maybe gets it into the hands of somebody who can just make a decision there and then. So you've got to ask yourself, okay, if I can't send to a publisher, then are there publishers that do accept unsolicited manuscripts? And the answer is yes. But what you might find is that you don't know which ones do and which ones don't. So there's a great reference book called Writers and Artists Yearbook. I think there is one that's just writers, as just for writers, but this one's also got artists, so if you're an artist, this is a good resource as well. And obviously my one's 2005, so you obviously want to get the most up-to-date version, not this one. And in here you'll find lots of information, great advice about how to write a cover letter, how to approach them, and also there's a list, as I say, of agents and publishers, and that's very important that you find the correct publisher for your work, because obviously if I've written it's kind of aimed at children, so it could be if it's a children's book, then I'm not going to send my work to a publisher that just doesn't take on children's books, because that'd be pointless. Equally, if you've got a cooking book, there's no point in sending it to a publisher that only publishes fantasy. So those are the things and they sound very obvious mistakes to make, but I guess you'll be surprised. And again, with cover letters, you need to make sure that you keep it short, keep it precise, and tell them a little bit about your book. Don't go on too much, and also a little bit about yourself and why you've kind of connected to the work that you've written. And also, publishers like to know whether you've got other ideas as well, so you can also mention the other book that you've started to work on. Even if it's just an idea and you haven't started working on it, they want to know you're just not a one-hit wonder, and that they want a writing career from you. They want several books in the future. The other thing to work out is you need to find out about their submissions guide, because each publisher might do it differently. If they want it via email and they only want it in electronic format, i.e. a Word document, then do that. Don't then print out a hard copy and send it to them, because it won't get read. And they are that strict because they get so many manuscripts sent to them, they can afford to be. Equally, if they want it uploaded to their website, do that. And they may specify a certain format that they want it. It could be that you need to double space it. It could be that you need to leave a wider margin on one of the sides, because then the people that are going to be reading your manuscript can make notes. So things like that. And those are really small but important details if you're going to approach a publisher directly. Equally, if you're going to approach an agent, again, look up the agent, see if they're the sort of thing that they might be agents that only specialise in non-fiction, so you've got to check those out. And again, do a short, courteous cover letter, and again, maybe email them. Make sure you know the name of the person that you need to contact, which should be in that book. And then, hopefully, you'll get representation. Now, why would you want an agent? Well, I think there are advantages, obviously, because they know contracts. They also have contact within the publishing industry, so obviously they can get your manuscript into people that matter. Whereas if you just send yours off, why should they read your book? If I'm going to be really harsh. And so there are advantages. I guess the disadvantage that they will be getting a cut of any royalties and any money, but then hey, they've done you a service, so it's not really that bad. But those are the things you have to think about. And then of course you've got self-publishing. Now I went down the self-publishing route mainly because I had written my book on and off for about 4 years, and I just wanted to see it published and printed and in book form. I thought, well, if I send it to a publisher, I may get rejected. That might take X amount of years before I actually do get picked up, or if I send it to an agent, they might reject it. And it's just that long-winded process, because it might take you 3 or 4 years from when you start sending your work out to actually getting published. I know that sounds really brutal, but that is the truth of it, because again, they might need a year to gear up your book, get it all ready to actually get it printed. Now, obviously, if you go down the self-publishing route, then you've still got to get somebody to typeset it, to design the cover. And again, if it's illustrated, you need an illustrator. So those are other things you may need to consider. And again, the disadvantage is the cost. You need to, have a certain amount of money to be able to print your book. And it's not only the printing, like I say. I was very lucky. I'm a graphic designer. I used to be a graphic designer, so I know how to typeset a book. So I didn't have to pay someone to do that. Equally, I was very lucky. My friend Rich Nen, he did a great job with the illustrations. He designed the cover. I designed the cover, but he drew the actual image on the cover. So again, I had resources to pull on. And a friend of mine, Kate Miller, she's an editor and a writer herself, and she very kindly edited it for me as well. So I was very, very lucky. Plus, there's something called an ISBN, and all books have them. Let's have a look. This barcode here, you won't see it in detail, but there is a number above the barcode. That is a unique number for every single title that gets published, and it's international, and you'll need to purchase one of those, and normally they sell them only in blocks of 10, and I believe mine was about £150. And of course, that will cover me now for 10 books. So that's basically 10 years. I'm hoping to publish one each year. So again, you have to factor in those costs. So you might think, wow, if I get it printed and it costs me, £6, and I'm selling it for £10, that's £4 profit. Well, it might not be, because obviously if you're going to be sending them that yourself, you need they pay for postage, but it might be that you need to obviously buy the packaging. You'll then maybe, you've got to figure in graphic design costs, you've got to figure in, and then don't get me started on the marketing, because of course you then need to market your book, because your book might be the best book that's been ever written, but of course, if it won't sell if nobody's heard of it. So again, that's a whole different, in fact we'll do another episode on marketing because it's such a big subject. So those are the things you really do have to consider now, whether you go for publishing the traditional route and try and get yourself an agent, or you can self-publish. Now, it sounds like I'm being all negative about this, but this is probably, writing a book, that is hard, and that's going to put your soul and your effort, and it's your baby, and you want it to do well. But of course, you want people to read it. That's kind of half the process, isn't it? You want people to enjoy it. And so, yes, you do need to try and get it published. So self-publishing, don't be put off if you're determined to get your work out there. Of course, you could just go to Kindle and get it digitalized, and you do a digital version, and maybe that's a good way to start off. Just go to Kindle, and go to Amazon. They've got very clear instructions about how to create a digital formatted book. But again, you are going to run into the marketing problems. How do you get people to know about your work? Well, there you go. So that's publishing, or agents, or self-publishing. What do you do? Hopefully you found that interesting, and obviously if you've got any comments, please leave them under this video. I'm going to look down as though it's clever. Anyway, there you go. So leave some comments. Hope you enjoyed that, and please, share this video if you've liked. We do have, obviously, there's 4 other parts. This is part 5, so check those out. And of course, we do have other shows. We've got a review show. Well, it's mainly a kind of review show. It's on Fridays, and so you can check that out, where we review fantasy books, films, and board games. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep it unreal. Yeah, especially if you're writing fantasy. Yeah, definitely if you're writing fantasy.